Good morning. Welcome to Fantasy Sports Today here on SportsGrid. Thanks for tuning in to the special Memorial Day weekend edition of the show. Craig Mish, George Kurtz with you here for the next couple of hours. We're going to recap the first 2 full months of the fantasy baseball season. George, great to be back with you here. Hopefully you're having a nice Memorial Day long weekend here. It's also sort of the rite of passage for fantasy baseball and reality baseball to kind of take a look and see where your teams are at to determine which direction you need to go forward.
Agreed, and I hope you're having a nice Memorial Day weekend as well. So, yes, it's fun. Finally got some sun here in the Northeast, right? Rained most of last week, so it wasn't a lot of fun here. But you're right. The holidays is sort of how you judge your team. Memorial Day, okay, what do I need to do? All right, do I need bases? Do I need average? Do I need power? Do I need starting pitching saves? Whatever it might be here. And now over the next 2 months, really, is when you got to fix it. Make your trades, make your moves, do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, unfortunately, Memorial Day also signifies the last time they look at their fantasy baseball team, too. Now, folks, come on, you got to be better than that. I know football season is coming here soon, but got to stick with your teams. Make sure that you stay competitive as much as you can. Let's take a look at our headlines this weekend as we break it all down for you. Home run leaders, Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge on a historic pace this season. They've been fantastic. Boy, I'll tell you who else has been fantastic. The Chicago Cubs offense. We're going to get into them a little bit later in the show, too. They've got several superstars on that team on offense. One potentially that could be the MVP of fantasy baseball this season. Baltimore Orioles end up firing their manager last week. And, it looks like they're headed toward nowhere land. And the Tigers, gosh, like who would have thought the Tigers would have been in this spot with the most wins in baseball at this point? But let's start off, George, as kind of the season in terms of the leaders that we thought we would have when we entered Memorial Day weekend, which is the batting average has been surprising for Aaron Judge, who's not going to hit 400 and is not anymore. So, he could end up hitting 350. I mean, that's possible, but he's having this historical run here with a bunch of home runs. And then Shohei Ohtani, who's also doing the same thing. And by the way, they said that he may slow down stealing bases this season. Yeah, slow it down from 50. He may only have 40, George. I mean, this guy is just so far out of this world. And to think that he could be pitching this summer, too, is crazy.
Right. He actually threw to live batters over the weekend. I think it was Saturday. He was throwing to live batters here while the Dodgers playing the Mets. So we'll see if Ohtani does end up pitching at some point. What do you figure? We're late May now. Maybe late June, maybe a month he could be on the mound. Maybe, that's a guess here. We'll see. And fantasy owners have to make that decision. Do you put him in your starting lineup as a pitcher here? What if you're going to do one or the other? It would always be the hitter for me, by the way. If you're going to do a hitter or a pitcher, Ohtani, always the hitter. I don't think I'm worried about him pitching as far as helping my fantasy team this year. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what Ohtani can do. And you're absolutely right about Judge. He's not hitting 400. The question is going to be, he was close last year. Can he win the Triple Crown? Right, he lost the batting average to Bobby Witt, I think, by about 10 points or so. So can he rectify that situation? Maybe he's not going to hit 65 home runs this year. He'll just win the Triple Crown instead.
Yeah, I think that it's, sort of the dynamic here is that, stolen bases are pretty much what you're chasing to be able to do this in fantasy. But as far as the Triple Crown is concerned, it seems to be unlikely for me that anybody does it again. All right, Cubs, let's talk about them here for a minute. They are basically the top in every single hitting category this season. Two big reasons why, George. Reason why, number one, or 1A, maybe, honestly, when I think about this, Kyle Tucker, the acquisition of Kyle Tucker has been fantastic for them. Why Houston decided to do this, I'm not even really sure. I know Cam Smith is a player that they like a lot, certainly, but Tucker is a star. And then a player we'll talk about a little bit later who's been an absolute superstar and has been on fire, including a historic game on Friday night. That's Pete Crow Armstrong, George. I mean, my gosh, if you remember last season and even going into this season, there were some questions about this kid, his attitude is going to be able to play. Well, I mean, this kid's fantastic. So you got those two to go along with the rest of the lineup, which is pretty good. Also, I've definitely changed my opinion of the Cubs back in March as to now. I think they're a legit, maybe not contender to win the World Series, but a legit contender to go to the pennant.
I would probably agree. I don't think they're going to go to the pennant. Not right now. Told you at the trade deadline. If they had another pitcher or two, I might feel differently, whether it's a starter or in the bullpen help there. But They were the favorite to win that division. I have a ticket on the Reds, in all honesty. Just I thought the Reds, maybe if Francona would do some damage this year, but they look great here. I mean, Greg, how much money is Tucker going to get in the offseason? If Guerrero got 500, he's much better player than Guerrero. Hell, he's a much better player than Soto. He's actually a decent outfielder, can run the bases as well. So, I mean, his contract's going to start with a 6 and end with a lot of zeros here. And I wouldn't shock me if he gets up to 7 as well here. And remember, the Cubs, they tried to add Bregman, right? They were close to getting Bregman. They probably finished second, maybe third in the Bregman sweepstakes for third base here. So they could have, their offense could even be better because Bregman's having a great season with Boston as well here. So, yes, hard not to like the Cubs.
So those are the positives. Now let's get to real quick the negatives before we break. And those are the Baltimore Orioles, who went through this epic rebuild of losing, George, like over and over again, losing 100 games, getting all of these draft picks, getting Adley Rutschman, getting Gunnar Henderson and Colby Mayo. And, last year they had Anthony Santander. I mean, they had no shortage of offense. But this season they end up firing the manager. There's fire and being thrown everywhere you can find in Baltimore, at the owner, at the GM. I mean, it is crazy to think that this team is out of it on Memorial Day, but they probably are. I mean, let's just be honest. I could see their offense turning it around. If you said, George, Craig, hey, look, I bet they play 500 baseball the rest of the season, I'd say, yeah, probably. But what pitchers do you really see that's going to all of a sudden just come into town and pitch well for them? They made some really poor decisions as far as the pitching staff is concerned. And I think the hitting will come around. I think that this is just an anomaly, and I think they'll be much better from June on. But that's not going to get them to the playoffs. George, they're 15 games under. So if they play 500 this season, the rest of the season, they're still only winning about 70 games. So it's not happening.
No, agreed. You're talking in the American League, they are second to last. Okay, they are a game ahead of the Chicago White Sox. All right, think about that. All right, they're a game ahead of the Chicago White Sox, so they're 10.5 games out of the wild card. Forget the division, but 10.5 out of the wild card. It's not impossible. It is May, and I agree with what you said. They can't hit any worse, so yeah, they'll hit better. But they, Reutemann, Holiday, Henderson's been okay since coming back from the injury there. Westberg's been hurt. Cowser's been hurt here. O'Hearn, Mullins started. He did really well. He's been a little bit of a slump the past week here. I guess he could be a trade chip. Tyler O'Neill, you kidding me? The guy gets hurt all the time. All right, Eflin hasn't been what they thought in the rotation, right? Grayson Rodriguez has been hurt all year. You didn't sign Corbin Burns or re-sign Corbin Burns, which is fine if you didn't want to pay that money, but you didn't replace him. I mean, you didn't replace him. I can understand letting Santander go. I get that because you had the young players here. They got to play. I kind of understand that. But the pitching, no. I was complaining about that in March. So I was complaining about that in February when they weren't making any moves here. And they were hoping this was going to play well. They don't have good young pitchers. They have good young hitters. They needed to trade some of those good young hitters for good young pitchers. And they didn't bother doing that either. So I just thought it was a very disappointing offseason. And by the way, the 3 teams that fired their manager, Orioles, Pirates, Rockies, it wasn't the manager's fault. None of these teams was the manager's fault. This was all ownership who didn't want to spend money in the offseason.
Yeah, I mean, look, part of it is the manager too, though, when you're as bad as the Orioles. I mean, it shouldn't be this bad. I mean, George, they can still be 500 with the worst pitching staff in baseball, not hitting too. Something had to change. But by the way, Brandon Hyde through all the losing. I agree with you. Probably shouldn't have been fired, but some of it he's got to be culpable for. Does it just go to show you that health is the key? Starting pitching is the key to success in baseball? Tigers having an incredible season, George. Yeah, their pitching has been great, but they've all been healthy. I mean, this is not, rocket science here. This is why the Tigers are so good.
And also that their hitting's come around, right? Torkelson's become great. McKinstry, Gleyber Torres, Javier Baez. They're hitting better than we thought as well.
We'll take a quick time out on Fantasy Sports Today and be right back on this Memorial Day weekend. Don't go away.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports today on Sports Grid. Happy Memorial Day weekend to all of you out there, and certainly honoring everyone in the military on this day, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whenever you're watching the show. Without a doubt, a very important holiday for all. And then for those of us who get to stay home, we get to barbecue or do whatever we're going to do. In my case, hopefully it is that as well. All right, so 2 months into the baseball season, George, let's take a look at some of the overperformers. Not overperformers in terms of expectations, but overperformers based on where they were drafted. Because, George, as you know, the fantasy baseball community is never afraid to tell you when they say, I knew it, right? But when they didn't do well, it's like, oh, it was an injury, something like that. Anyway, Pete Crow Armstrong. Let's start off here with the Chicago Cubs. One of the most valuable players in all of fantasy baseball. I mean, there's no question about it. Friday night, this guy goes off completely. As you can see his numbers, they're out of this world. Stealing bases like crazy, too. He's on pace not for 30-30, but for 40-40. I mean, I don't think he's going to go 40-40, but we're seeing a potential young superstar in his breakout season. Not to say last season wasn't part of that, but it's really happening now, George, and he's the kind of player that in fantasy baseball, if you have him on your team, you couldn't have done any better. Like this is one of those guys that you think about playing fantasy baseball and you hit on a guy that you didn't draft the first couple rounds. This is it.
He's a league winner. There's no other way of talking about it. He's a league winner. All right. Right now, his average is helping you. His home runs are certainly helping you, and he's stealing bases as well. I mean, he's doing everything you could want. And you didn't draft anywhere near the first couple of rounds. All right. We weren't sure about this kid coming in. He might be good. He might be okay. He'll steal me some bases. I'm gonna take him. Whatever, round 10. I think he's had a fantastic season here. Looks great for him. Well, his former Met, right? Came over in the one of those trades there. So, oops. I think the Mets would like him back to be a center fielder, wouldn't they? The Javi Baez. Oh my God! Boy, the Mets maybe ruined that for a long time. All right, as good as this kid is, yeah, but he's been fantastic. It's good to see. We'd like to see good young players reach their. Well, actually, I think he's overreaching his potential. Right, he's going past that right now. People thought he'd be a good player. No one saw superstar potential, and right now he's at that.
Same could be said for James Wood of the Washington Nationals, probably not getting as much fanfare because Washington, up until this past week, wasn't playing very well. And I got to say, I was a little concerned for the Nationals and for Dave Martinez. And I was like, wait a second, like, isn't there supposed to be this step coming this year? Okay, it's here. The Nationals look like they could be 500 this year. This is what they were asking for. And then next year, maybe take the bigger step. Part of it has been Wood, 12 home runs, 33 runs driven in, 7 stolen bases for a guy that's this big is sort of crazy. And yeah, I mean, the Nationals are really in a good spot, I think, moving forward. But as I said, George, I mean, if you looked at the end of April and even into May a little bit, I was like, wait a second here. Like, the Nationals should be better than this. Like, they shouldn't be at the bottom of the NL East, but obviously they're playing much better baseball now.
Yes, and I don't see them being, contending for a playoff spot or anything like that, but I think they could take the next step, and they sort of are, and James Wood is a big reason why. He's sort of a left-handed hitting Aaron Judge, right? He's huge, he can run, he's going to hit home runs. All right, he'll hit home runs by mistake because the man is so strong. And doesn't play in the greatest hitters ballpark in Washington, but still getting the job done. I am a James Wood fan. Okay, I think I've said this a couple of times in the show. My biggest futures bet in baseball was James Wood over 17 and a half home runs. He's going to crush that unless he gets hurt here. He should pass that pretty easily. We'll knock on wood there, but love James Wood. Dylan Cruz, he got hurt here, and at one point was wondering if he could be up in this list as well. Maybe before the season, he got hurt. He was just starting to turn his season around as well here.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with Cruz can come back as well. Because I think those two, and C.J. Abrams, by the way, are going to be the catalyst for that Washington Nationals offense both this year and in the future.
Would agree. The Arizona Diamondbacks have Geraldo Perdomo. A couple of years ago was thought to be maybe a backup player in fantasy baseball, and reality baseball has been a lot more than that. Look at his average, 300, and the difference between him and a guy like Luis Arias, George, is look at the steals. I mean, he's going to steal probably 25, 30 bases this season. There was some sentiment that he would not be a starting player ever. I mean, he surpassed that, right?
Yeah, right there. And they do have a bunch of, middle infielders, right? They just called up Lola. Where's Lola going to play? Because you're not benching Perdomo. I don't see that here. So he's played very well here. As you said, he's got some pop too. He'll probably at the end of the year hit, 15 home runs. We'll take that. Maybe even get to 20. Wouldn't be the biggest shock. Steal you some bases. Good average. So yes, we like Perdomo. Another guy who we didn't see this coming from. Maybe close to, but not quite this. But yeah, Perdomo's had a really good season, and he plays in a really good lineup, which helps as well here. There's no really pressure on him other than a performance pressure there, but there'll be people on base for him. Perdomo's had a very nice start to his season.
I have to say his name is not Perdomo. Several times, George. Perdomo. Perdomo. Like Romo. Got it?
I see with the pronunciation police today.
No, only on this. I mean, listen, if you screw it up 4 times, I got to call you out, okay? You get once, you get twice, you get 3 times the 4th time. Nathan Eovaldi, you'll get this one right. Nathan Eovaldi has been arguably the best pitcher in the American League. 1.60 earned run average, 71 strikeouts in 67 innings. He is the highest overperformer at pitcher in fantasy.
Fantastic start to a season. It's a shame the Rangers can't hit. Right, they're struggling right now. They just cannot hit at all. So Eovaldi, DeGrom, they're losing wins here because they're, the offense can't put up runs on the board. You're in a quality start league. Hey, you don't really care here. But if you're in a wins league, you're losing some W's here because the offense is a little frustrating here. But Eovaldi's been great. And we sort of saw this coming. He can be up and down. I do wonder how he'll perform as the season rolls along here. But to start the season, he's been fantastic.
Chris Bubik on the Royals. It's been a headlining staff here. Several good pitchers. It's the reason why they were able to trade Brady Singer. They believed in this guy. He's got 61 innings and a 1.47 earned run average. Every manager that ends up facing Bubik, George, says afterwards, we didn't know how good this guy was.
Yeah, a top pickup, right? Because I don't know how many leagues he was drafted in. So he's one of those guys you might have picked up somewhere in April. Can really be helping your team. Yeah, plays in a good pitcher's ballpark there, but Bubik's been fantastic. Strong pitch against the Yankees. He had them baffled as well.
We'll be back with more fantasy sports today on this Memorial Day weekend.
We salute the brave and courageous women and men serving in the United States military, protecting our freedom. Please take time this Memorial Day weekend to honor the memory and sacrifice of our military veterans and their loving families, and those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in their service to our nation.
I'm not saying this thing is scripted, but damn it, they put those two teams on the first weekend of the basketball season for a reason, because they were expecting some kind of fireworks. They got it. Did Angel Reese overreact? Probably. Did Caitlin Clark have to stare it down? Probably not. There's enough blame to go both sides. But guess who doesn't care? That's the WNBA.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
I actually like the fact that they went 7 games against a quality opponent here and still had to face adversity even in a game number 7. How are we setting up this next series where they rested Minnesota Timberwolves team taking on OKC fresh from the fight here?
They had an extremely, maybe it's just too strong a statement to say, easier pathway than people thought, particularly because of their size.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
Happy Memorial Day weekend here on SportsGrid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. This is Fantasy Sports Today. We're covering the first 2 months of the fantasy baseball season here. Let's continue from the overperformers to the underperformers in reference to their average draft position going into the season back in February and March. I know some of you drafted in January, and of course, you're insane. That's fine. You just draft a fantasy football team here over the next month, too. See how that works out. All right, let's talk hitting. Anthony Santander, we just mentioned him, actually, goes from Baltimore to Toronto. The Blue Jays had their wallet open, George. Nobody wanted to take the money, so they found somebody. It was Anthony Santander, 6 home runs, 18 runs driven in. And if he was hitting 260, we would say, he's off to a slow start, probably ends up with 25, 30 home runs. 188 at the start of the season, George. I mean, this is not what they expected.
No, especially in that bandbox. Remember, right? It's Toronto. I mean, they brought the fence in a couple of years ago for no reason. You would think he'd have, at least double that amount of home runs here. But I'm very careful, Greg, when it comes to some guys who are traded or moved during the offseason for whatever reason and signed by free agent, whatever, because you do have to get used to the new town you're in, the new city you're in, and this state, the new country you're in. So that does worry me somewhat coming in anyway here, but I did not see this. I thought he'd be fine, at least put up 30-plus home runs. Maybe with average that would hurt you. I don't think if you were drafting him, you weren't drafting to hit, 310. You were probably hoping 240, but you wanted your 35, 40 home runs and your ribbies and your runs, and you're not getting any of this. It's a concern right now. Have to believe he picks it up.
All right, now let's get to the Chicago White Sox. Look, underperforming, that's for sure with Luis Robert, but in the end, he just needs a new change of scenery. There's no other way to say it. They end up sending Andrew Vaughn to the minor leagues. Robert, you could have made the case for them to do it here too. But I think that they're trying to showcase him, at least for the trade deadline. He's got 17 steals, though, and 5 home runs. Look, I can. This is underperforming, but I can live with it, George.
This sucks. All right, this is not underperforming. This sucks. This is terrible. All right, he's batting 178, 5 home runs. He did this last year as well. 17 stolen, but you're not, you didn't draft Robert for stolen bases, right? You drafted him for some power and some decent average, especially hitting in Chicago. And you already said it. The White Sox want to move him. And I agree with you. He does need a change of scenery badly, but they're not going to get what they were hoping to get from him. All right, I know the Dodgers have some interest in, because the Dodgers always have interest, but they're not going to get what they're going to get from him. Even Libby came out the other day and said, "Hey, I got to perform better." No kidding. Thanks for bringing that up here, but this is awful. I mean, nothing to do about the ribbies. There's not much offense there, but the home runs, the average, that's got to get way better here. The stolen base, I think it's just him trying to make up for what he's doing or what he's not doing offensively here. But this is bad.
At the pitching side, this is the big surprise of the fantasy baseball season. There's been a couple, and this is one of them. And because he's not pitching, I think it makes it worse. Or does it, George? Do you think that Aaron Nola needed a reset because he was not helping anybody in fantasy? 49 innings pitched, an ERA of 6, 52 strikeouts, a whip of 1.5. And, clearly 6.16 earned run average is not getting it done. There's some speculation that, he'll go to the minors, get himself fixed a little bit. But, I mean, this is one of the, really good pitchers in baseball, not over the last 2 years, after the last 10 years.
This is sort of addition by subtraction, right? Because now at least you're not forced to start him. Always on the Phillies, they're going to get a W, so I'm going to put him in there. At least you're not forced to start him here. Maybe he does need a restart. Maybe a break is good for him. He might have a rehab start or two. Maybe he can fix himself here. But I have a lot of worries about Nola that this might be the end of him being a really good pitcher. You're playing a bandbox once again. The weather's going to warm up. The ball's going to travel further. I mean, it's a time to trade. Nola's probably ended here, but maybe you can move him for something. I have my downs here, but I'm going to have a hard time starting him on my – I didn't draft him anyway. I didn't really trust him. I have a hard time starting him anywhere.
Finally, let's get to Dylan Cease of the Padres. Really, the Padres' issue has been hitting. It hasn't been pitching. They're coming alive a little bit now. But, clearly this is a disappointment. Cease on San Diego, 4.5 earned run average. If he has a 3.5 rest of the season, George, it'll work out.
Yeah, not as worried about Cease. I'm certainly more worried about Nola than Cease. I think he'll be fine as well here. Maybe not Cy Young fine, if that's what you were hoping for here, but I think he'll get the job done. Also, wouldn't shock the Padres wanting to save some money. They try and move him at some point. Not that they want to, but more that they feel they have to, that sort of thing. So that wouldn't be the biggest shock either.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout on Fantasy Sports Today. When we come back next, the fantasy MVPs for the first 2 months of the fantasy baseball season. Still a long way to go, but it is Memorial Day weekend, so we're celebrating in a big way here on the show, and we'll be right back. Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke, but how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? How many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today with Hunter Brown winning the American Cy Young Award. I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back to Fantasy Sports Today here on Sports Grid. I'm Craig Mish along with George Kurtz. Happy Memorial Day weekend for all of you celebrating out there this weekend and honoring our troops as well. Let's get to the fantasy MVPs through 2 months of the fantasy baseball season. I mean, I was debating, honestly, between two Cubs. I mean, I just honest with you. But, when I voted, it was before Friday night. I'm just going to keep it real. So, we got to make graphics for this stuff. It's the way a TV show works. I probably would have swapped it. But I'll go, George, with Kyle Tucker. 12 home runs, 14 stolen bases, 30-30 guy. Batting average is solid here. I know a lot of leagues still use batting average. He's been everything the Cubs could have possibly asked for this season. I guess the only thing is that he was taken pretty high in fantasy drafts. Maybe not as high as he did the year before, but to me still, I think he's delivered on everything that you've asked.
Oh, I don't think anybody can argue this. He's been fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Love Kyle Tucker. But you do bring up an interesting point here. When talking fantasy MVP, baseball, football, hockey, should we really be taking somebody in round one? We were not allowed to vote for Aaron Judge, by the way. All right. Apparently that was disqualified. But I don't know if I would have voted for Judge anyway. You took him first or second overall. He's doing what you expected him to do. Is he really your MVP? In my mind, the MVP is someone you draft later on. Later on. I was debating between two people, not two Cubs, though. One, I wanted to give our producer, Sam, a little love here for the Nationals. Between James Wood and PCA was my other guy, Crow Armstrong here. Now, I went with Wood here, but I kind of wish I would have done the other way. PCA, I think, is your fantasy MVP, but Wood's been fantastic as well here. But these are guys you drafted later. I know Wood in my home league, I think I got in round 10. That's a keeper league. Wood's on my team for 3 more years, boys and girls, and I am very happy about that. So I think he has had that kind of season here. But I think if I had to redo it here, sorry, Sam, I probably would go with Crow Armstrong, who you drafted probably around the same round. And he's got as much power. He's stealing more bases. So It's close, but it would be PCA for me.
And we'll get to him in a minute. It's coming up. Okay, the fantasy rookie of the year. I'll start off here. And I mean, it was a tough call for me. I think George has a good one too. But I'm going to stay with the team that I'm closest to here in Augustin Ramirez of the Miami Marlins. He already has 6 home runs, 12 runs driven in. You may say, well, why didn't you go with A.J. Smith-Shawver? He's been fantastic. Why didn't you go with Drake Baldwin? Yeah, he splits time. But it's really fascinating, George, to me when you think about it. Augustin Ramirez, right? Drake Baldwin, Logan O'Hoppe. Like this is like the best catching fantasy season in a really long time. There's like actually some viable catchers, and 2 are rookies. So I got the Marlins, Augustin Ramirez, as my rookie of the year thus far. Keep in mind, he only got called up a few weeks ago. At the end of the season, I think he's hitting 20, 25 home runs. And, he's, right now, he's probably the best hitter on the Marlins.
Augustin Ramirez came over from the Yankees right in the Jazz Chisholm deal. Yankee catchers always seem to be the same. They can hit. Catching is a different story here. So I think it could be Ramirez's problem. Can he catch at the major league level? But he can hit. His kid's going to hit 20-plus home runs in a full Major League Baseball season, maybe even 25. And he plays 140 games, 130 games for a catcher, I guess. But yeah, I like Ramirez as well. Now, I was choosing between somebody you mentioned, Smith-Shawver, and if he would have won the other day, but he sort of spit the bit there in his last start. So I gave you the Jacob Wilson. Yes, he's going to get the Sacramento bump. I get it. And his numbers are probably only going to get better as it gets warmer and warmer there. And they're out of this world when you think about it. And like I said, I think by the end of the year, the average probably does come down, but maybe still bats over 300. He's going to hit about 15, 20 home runs, steal your double-digit bases. Hard not to like this kid. So that's who I went with here. But like I said, I think if AJ would have won his last start, or at least pitched better, and yes, he's on my fantasy team, so I'm angry at him as well. I can't get a win to save my life in my home league. I might have voted for AJ, but that loss gave Wilson the nod for me.
Yeah, I mean, how is this possible that Jack Wilson from the Pirates has a kid playing Major League Baseball? I mean, it feels like he
Scary.
just played. Feels like he just played like a few years
Yes.
ago in baseball.
Yes.
All right, sleeper of the year. So this is where my Pete Crow Armstrong pick came in. This could honestly be the talk of the show. We could just keep going here. Again, he hit a couple of home runs on Friday, so those stats are, a little bit on the older side. But he's been, arguably the biggest surprise in all of fantasy this year, based on where you took him and the performance. We could go on and on about this guy.
Just fantastic. I mean, he's looking like a great player. He's going to be that kind of player. And listen, in some ways, I hope he is. I hope he does keep this up, and it's not just a hot start to his season. But we do know baseball is a game of adjustments. All right, so we'll see what happens here over the long season. Pitchers will figure out, or teams will figure out how to pitch to him, and he'll have to make those adjustments to hit those pitches, outside curveballs, balls off the plate, whatever it might be that they feel his weakness is. But to this point, he has been. I mean, utterly, he's fun to watch, which is something we don't see. He's got speed up the wazoo as well. So he's fun on defense and on offense. He's just been great for the Chicago Cubs and fantasy players.
All right, let's get to yours, George. Who do you got?
I picked Cal Raleigh. Really, because I wanted to talk, and you already stole about catchers, right? You were talking catchers here. This guy's been great. I mean, you can make an argument he's your MVP right now because, once again, you picked him later. He's not even a top catcher that was drafted, right? Maybe top 5. But we all love Roachburg. We love the Contreras brothers there, and Will Smith. And, this guy, he might hit 40 home runs. All right, the big dumper they call him there in Seattle. And remember, he's hitting in a pitcher's ballpark. It's not a hitter's ballpark there in Seattle. Love what Cal Raleigh's done. And listen, Craig, I will never be a proponent of 2-catcher leagues. Always thought that was insane. We don't have 24 catchers or even 20 catchers in 10-team leagues here. But you said something earlier that was true. We do now have 1 catcher for everybody. All right, it's not like, oh my God, if you don't take a catcher in the first 6 catches, you have nobody. Nowadays you can wait and still get a decent catcher. So that's better in fantasy leagues, but still not an excuse to have to start 2 catchers. Hate 2-catcher leagues.
Agreed. All right, we have a Made of Glass award. I don't know why Sam decided to do this here on the show today, to take a shot at guys in baseball. Yeah. So, all right. So here is mine. Now, I want to say this with a little bit of a caveat. It is Memorial Day weekend here. There's a chance that you're watching this show, on a replay. Now, we are live here, okay? But just to be clear, if I screw up here, they've asked us to do this. It's not my fault. Now, on the Marlins broadcast on Friday night and on the Angels one too, they speculated that Mike Trout could return on Memorial Day, Monday here. But as of right now, he has not. He has 9 home runs, 18 runs driven in, 179 batting average. Gosh, I hate doing this, giving the Made of Glass award to anyone. But we're on like 5 years in a row here with Mike Trout. I don't know what else there is to say, George. He's a Hall of Famer, one of the best players I've ever seen. He just can't stay healthy anymore. That's it.
Listen, you may hate to do it, but it's the right answer. I mean, it's the right answer here. Trout, he can't stay healthy. It's a shame because if he just could have stayed moderately healthy, he'd probably be one of the best ball players ever. All right, ever. And instead, he can't. Listen, he played 29 games last year, 82 the year before, 119, 36, 53. I mean, he just can't do it here. Now, I don't think he started taking any. He hasn't played any games yet. He's just running now. So if they start bringing him back Monday, and once again, they're playing the Yankees Monday. So, boys, give him a couple of extra days. I think he needs the time. Maybe go take a little rehab here. He should play next weekend here. But I think they would be rushing him back a little bit. I chose the low-hanging fruit in Stanton. He hasn't played all year. Gets hurt every damn year. Not as good a player as Trout, but same thing. Yeah, well, he's very consistent with those numbers. A lot of donuts there. 2 elbow injuries. And by the way, the Yankees are going to be a mess when he does return here. They're already benching somebody every game because they have 4 guys for 3 spots. When he returns, they'll have 5 guys for 3 spots. Ben Rice will be on his way down here. But as you call Stanton, I think Trout's probably the better answer because at least he started the season. We knew Stanton was going to be hurt. But these 2 guys, they just can't stay healthy for any amount of time.
Show me that graphic again, Sam. Got to put it up there. We get paid to do that right there. Think about it. Whatever you are doing this Memorial Day weekend, we paid somebody to produce that graphic of zeros. buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams needed a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. No doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched it against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today with Hunter Brown winning the American Cy Young Award. I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. It is Memorial Day weekend here on SportsGrid. Hopefully you're having a great one. Got the barbecue out, all set to go. Let's not barbecue any players today. Let's get to some awards here for the first 2 months of the fantasy baseball season. George, let's talk fantasy Cy Youngs through 2 months. This is an easy one for George because he's got a Yankee, so I went a different direction here. I'm going Hunter Brown of the Houston Astros. 61 innings pitched, 71 strikeouts, ERA just over 2. Factored in where he was drafted. Credit to the Astros, though. George, they basically look nothing like they have in years past. I mean, think about those World Series with Dallas Keuchel and Justin Verlander and George Springer and Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman. I could keep going for Correa. And they just keep letting guys go, and then they replace guys. Now, I don't know. This seems to be the first year to me that they just don't look right. I know they didn't look right last year. They came on at the end. But credit to them, another pitching development story, Hunter Brown. And with the injuries that they now have to their pitching staff, they're going to need this kid to go the distance.
Right, he's finally realized his potential. He was supposed to be this guy when first called up here, and now he's starting to become that pitcher here. I have no problem with Hunter Brown, by the way. I was wrestling between Hunter Brown and you mentioned the Yankee I took, Max Fried. And I can't argue with your logic because that's what I believe in. Hunter Brown was taken later. All right. One of the reasons I took Fried, all his numbers are great. We know that the Yankees win every one of his starts. I think they've only lost one of the starts here coming into the Memorial Day weekend. And one of the reasons I took him is because, boy, you're going to pitch in New York. A lot of pressure there. All right. The Yankees lost Garrett Cole, lost Louis Hill. More pressure on him. I mean, Yankee fans like to complain, they didn't sign Juan Soto, regardless of what he's doing with the Mets right now. If the Yankees signed Juan Soto, they wouldn't have Max Fried. There's no way Steinbrenner was paying for both, and they'd be sunk. All right, because they don't have a fifth starter now. So it'd be a complete mess there. So Fried has really been almost a godsend for the Yankees here. I love the way he's pitched so far for them, and hopefully he can keep it up here. Although I'm the first person to tell you, Craig, he's not making 32 starts.
Yeah, I would agree. But as of right now, fantastic signing for the Yankees. All right, Fantasy Rookie of the Year from a pitching perspective. This was the easiest one on the board, George. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing some middle reliever, closer somewhere, American League starter. I don't know. I can't find one. So A.J. Smith-Shawver of the Braves was the guy. 41 innings pitched, 41 strikeouts, 3.67 earned run average. It's never a great season for rookie pitchers. I do want to add that. But in this season that the Braves are sort of hanging around here, and by the way, we saw Ronald Acuna return to a lot of fanfare. First pitch home run, by the way. Smith Shawver, to me, has been the easy Rookie of the Year pitcher.
Yeah, no problem with this. Not sure if he qualifies because he's been around a couple of years. I don't know how that works with the Rookie of the Year. He does so because I thought about him as well here. I decided, listen, we're going to give some love to the Chicago White Sox here. All right, I gave a lot of hate towards Robert, so we'll give some love to Shane Smith here, who's, I guess someone has to make the All-Star team for the White Sox, and I think it's going to be Smith. He has pitched that well. I'm the first person to admit what you said here. I don't know if Smith or Shohei at the end of the year are going to be the Rookies of the Year. I doubt they will, but for what the purpose of this show, that's who I'm voting for. He said a really nice season for a terrible team. All right, we know the White Sox are bad. Should he be the ace of the staff? Probably not. Would he be the ace on a better team? Probably not. But for the White Sox, he has. We know there's a lot of pressure on him because they're not going to hit. You're not going to get 9 runs a game here. So I went with Shane Smith here, showing a little love for the Chicago White Sox.
All right, now the Made of Glass. Sam's like, let's just rip some guys here once again here at the end. Yep. This was the lowest lying fruit I could find here. And by the way, Hall of Fame career. Let me say that. Hall of Fame career. The second he stops playing, you wait 5 years, and Max Scherzer is going to be voted in the National Baseball Hall of Fame. But this dude, every year for the last several years, barely finishes a year or doesn't finish a year. Some team thinks, all right, maybe 1 year, we could, and then it doesn't work. And then we just rinse and repeat. And the Blue Jays were the victims this year, unfortunately, of Max Scherzer. I hate to say it that way. But, Scherzer, George should have been going into this year, 1 year, 1 million. I've made $1 billion playing, a prove it type thing. But yeah, Blue Jays, went out, spent the money. And by the way, Scherzer's buddy Verlander also went on the injured list this week. There just comes a point in somebody's career where it ain't happening anymore. You think Scherzer's going to pitch this year, by the way?
Sure. It was a terrible signing as soon as they made it. All right. He's getting 16.5, though, for those who are wondering. But you're absolutely right.
Wow.
I don't think he should get half that. All right. And you're right. Everything you said is correct. He's a Hall of Fame guy. And he might have had the funniest thing I've seen all year when the game he wasn't pitching and the umpire was bad, the home plate umpire, and he's flipping a coin as if that's what the umpire is doing. He's flipping a coin. Strike! Bull. I mean, that was hilarious. I can't believe he was doing that, by the way, because sooner or later he's going to get that umpire as the home plate ump, and he ain't getting no benefits of the call there. No, that's a fine pick as far as Made of Glass here. Mine, I thought was the easiest pick, Tyler Glasnow. All right, this guy can actually still pitch in the majors. He actually is effective, but he gets hurt every single year. It's just some guys just aren't meant to make 32 starts, and he's one of them. He's another guy I do wonder at some point, does he have to be a closer where he's not going to pitch 180 innings a year because he cannot stay healthy? Wasn't healthy for the Dodgers last year when they won the World Series, already not healthy now. And I knew this when I drafted him. And it's a guy I told myself, all right, I'm going to take him because he's very good when he pitches, but I know he's not making 32. Can I get 20 starts out of him? Can I get 22? And I'm probably not going to get either one of those either here. He's just starting a throwing program now for the Los Angeles Dodgers. But Tyler Glasnow is my Made of Glass.
Well, it was easy because his GLAS in the name. I think that
maybe
was
that helped.
You just chat GPT that and it came up. Is that how you did it? Did you AI this?
I have him on a couple of teams, so I knew right away that was probably the easiest one. Oh, Glasnow. I knew I was taking Glasnow because of once again, it screwed me over.
All right, fair enough. All right, we're not going to screw you over here on the show, not just yet. Well, I guess we kind of are because you have to watch for another hour. Sorry. You can download the SportsGrid app for the rest of the shows. They're much better than this. Download it right now for iOS and Android. Just take out your phone and scan that QR code and set to go for the weekend. And, of course, for the future, plenty of NBA and NHL action this weekend, including Major League Baseball and WNBA as well. We'll be right back. buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. Oh, that's a joke. But how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? You know, how many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. All right, no doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today with Hunter Brown winning the American Cy Young Award. I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is he wouldn't, that he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.
Fire up the barbecue. It's Memorial Day weekend here on SportsGrid. We got another hour to go, but before we leave you for this hour, as always, we wrap up our first hour of this 2-hour extravaganza with some bold predictions. And speaking of bold, nobody more bold on this network than Craig Mish. No, I'm just kidding. Than George Kurtz. And here he is with bold predictions.
Not so sure how bold I am either here, but it's fantasy football, right? And I am currently involved in it. Craig made fun of people who draft fantasy baseball early. Well, I'm currently involved in a fantasy football draft, Dynasty League, with names that you certainly know here. And by the way, this draft has been a cluster. I mean, there are some things going on here that the commissioners had to send out messages complaining about people not picking, taking their full time. It's not been good, to put it nicely here. But anyway, bold predictions. Nobody has won the American League East, the NFC East in back-to-back seasons since 03-04. All right, I fully believe the Eagles are a better team than anybody else there, but I'm going to go by history here. It's been 22 years, not going to change. And unfortunately, it's not going to be the team over my left shoulder that's going to win the NFC East. It will be the Washington Commanders. Yeah, I'm all in on the Commanders. Hurts to say that, but yeah, I think they are a good team. I'll say they're the team that once again keeps this streak alive. All right, someone has to win I keep seeing the American League. The NFC East other than the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, we'll go with the Washington Commanders here. Cowboys, I do like they've made this offseason, but I don't think they're quite in the Commanders or Eagles class for that matter. So Commanders win the NFC East there. Chicago Bears. I love what the moves they've made here during the offseason, right? They've gotten, if you watched last year, I mean, it was almost a joke how bad that offensive line was, all right? I mean, they couldn't block. It was a jailbreak. Every play was a jailbreak, and Caleb Williams is running for his life. Or almost at snap. Hike's running for his life because they couldn't block anybody. They helped that this year, all right? They added some protection there. They may not have the greatest run game with DeAndre Swift and Rashawn Johnson, but it's solid here. But your receiving core, Moore, Adunze, Burden, you got to like that. All right, you added Loveland also here. Got to like that. All right, so he's got weapons now. I think Caleb Williams is going to finish as a fantasy quarterback 1 this year. All right, and I honestly don't even know how bold that is. And when I say fantasy quarterback 1, these are 10-team leagues. I know if you're really into fantasy, you're probably playing in a 12-team league, but most fantasy leagues are 10. So that's what I have to base my my calls on, because, like I said, a majority of leagues are 10 teams league, not 12, not 14, 16. Next, now this one might be somewhat bold, and I really thought about saying that this player was going to start from day one for the team. Instead, I sort of chose the easy way out. So maybe it's not as bold as I should have been here. But Shedeur Sanders, I don't care that he was drafted in round 5. And I believe if he does start from day one, he'd be the first quarterback to do that, drafted that late since Russell Wilson, the Seahawks. But I think Shedeur Sanders, by the end of the year, it will have started the most games at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, let's face it, there's just not much there. All right. I don't know what Deshaun Watson. We saw the owner come out and say what he said. So I don't think Watson ever starts for them again. Kenny Pickett, that ain't happening. All right. So he's not going to be that guy. Joe Flacco, I could see him starting the season. And then it's really Dylan Gabriel, Sanders. And Dylan Gabriel, no. So I think Sanders by the end of the year will start the most games at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns here. We'll stick in the AFC North here. Mike Tomlin, listen, I don't know who's going to quarterback this team. All right. I still assume it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, I think, but he's taking forever here. Honestly, he wants an opportunity someplace else. He doesn't believe in this team, which neither do I, which brings me back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This will be Mike Tomlin's first losing season. All right. And I love Mike Tomlin, by the way. And maybe he pulls it out again and gets to 9-8, but this is not a very good team. No matter who the quarterback is, your running game is blah. DK Metcalf, okay, that just really replaces George Pickens. You ain't got much else there. Robert Woods, really? Your defense is good, but not quite what it used to be, and you play in a really tough division. So this will be the Pittsburgh Steelers' first losing season. Last, New Orleans Saints. Another team, you don't have a quarterback. Even Derek Carr, I wasn't really all that thrilled about you. You're devoid of talent here. I don't care what division, if the division is a little weaker here. But the New Orleans Saints will have the worst record in the league. They'll get the number 1 pick. And another reason why I put this is because that number 1 pick could be Arch Manning, right? Manning coming home to New Orleans? That'd be kind of interesting now, wouldn't it, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's the direction the Saints are headed. They're in a rebuild. I mean, I don't see any reason to compete. So if I was, betting on any team on FanDuel, I know that the Saints have the lowest number on the board. I think the Browns may be close, but I think the Browns are going to try. I don't think the Saints are. That'll do it for hour 1. Happy Memorial Day weekend. We'll be right back. Buy or sell, Devers will be traded this season. Let's also not forget that there's $300 million on the table due to Devers, which eliminates him from, what would you say, like 17 teams?
Oh, I would think more than 17, maybe 27. That's a joke, but how many teams could afford him? All right, 5, 6. How many teams need a third baseman who can't play third base? How many people want to deal with his attitude? He hasn't come off looking good in any of this. Whether you believe he should have anyway, he doesn't look good at this. Will he be traded? No, he won't be traded. The salary alone makes it highly unlikely. He's a great hitter. No doubt he can hit. But other than that, there's too many between the money and the attitude and no really position for him here. He's not getting dealt anytime soon.
Buy or sell, if the season ended today, Hunter Brown would win the American League Cy Young Award.
Hunter Brown has been fantastic. All right, the guy that Craig's teasing, by the way, is Tariq Skubal of the Detroit Tigers here, who's certainly right up there with them. Max Fried for the Yankees has had a fantastic season. They finally lost a start where he pitched in against Seattle the other day. They'd won every start. He's been fantastic. The season ended today with Hunter Brown winning the American Cy Young Award. I certainly couldn't argue it if he did. That being said, he's going up against Skubal, who won it last year, going up against Fried of the Yankees. My guess is he'll need a year. You understand what I'm saying? He needs a year before he can get that kind of recognition if he's tied with somebody. If he's clearly ahead, then I think he would win here. But as of right now, would he win it? I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it would be probably Max Fried.
Fantasy Sports Today. Weekends starting at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Only on SportsGrid.